Actually, when we do laser-based refractive surgery, we are dealing with 3 rings. The first ring is the treatment zone. The second one is the cut, flap cut, or even the zone of debridement of the epithelium or the cut of the smile, and the limbus. So the treatment zone, there are 2 points to consider: the centration of the treatment zone and the diameter of the treatment zone. Regarding the centration, we know that we get the best results when we center the laser profile with the visual axis and not let the machine to center the laser profile with the pupil axis, because by default it will center it with the pupil axis. But we have to decenter it. Usually how we decenter the ablation treatment by just doing the either manual input or sometimes automatically transferred from the imaging system to the machine. So we just shift the laser profile to be centered with the visual axis. Because if we don't do this, then we are going to create coma. Usually we create coma because the patient will not use the same peak of treatment in vision. While when we shift it, then there will be no coma. Great. Shall we do this with every patient? Usually yes, with hyperopic components and when the myopic astigmatism is more than 1.5 diopters. Diameter. We have to know exactly the diameter of the treatment zone, not only the optical zone. We choose the optical zone, for example, 6.5, but what the laser will ablate is not only 6.5. There is the transitional zone, and in total, they are the ablation zone or treatment zone. So usually when we choose 7 millimeter, for example, for hyperopic profile, the transitional zone will be 2.5. So in total, it will be 9.5 millimeter ablation. And if we treat the astigmatism, usually we put 6.7 millimeters optical zone, and the transitional zone is usually 2 millimeter. So it will be 8.7. And if we are treating myopia, usually we put 6.5 millimeter, and the ablation zone will be 8 millimeter. So just remember that what you put is not only the thing that is going to be treated. Now we come to the cut. Usually when we make the cut, either we center the machine with the pupil, with the limbus, especially if you are using microkeratome, usually we center the ring to be symmetric according to the limbus. So in this case, we are choosing the geometric center of the cornea, and we do the cut. Great. Sometimes we choose the center of the pupil, and sometimes we choose the visual axis. Of course, the cut should be centered with the visual axis, especially if we are doing decentration of the laser profile. Why is that? Because if we don't do this, then we are going to ablate out of the bed or even the neck, the hinge. We come to the limbus. We have to choose the, let's say, especially if we are using the femtosecond, we have to choose the cone size based on the white to white, because if it is less than 12 millimeter, then it should be small, and if it is more than 12 millimeter, usually we choose the medium. And this is important to avoid loss of section, and at the same time to avoid intersection with the limbus. Okay, to choose the cone size and to choose the flap diameter. So how to interpret all of that all together? So what happens if we create the flap centered with the limbus or with the pupil center, and we shift the laser profile to be with the visual axis? So in this case, as I mentioned, the ablation profile will do some of the out of the bed and it will hit the hinge. And of course, it's not something good to just protect the hinge because we are anyhow losing energy and the ablation is asymmetric. So we have to do decentration of the flap creation itself with the visual axis. Then we have to determine or to measure the maximum flap diameter, okay? The allowed maximum flap diameter, because we have to keep at least 1 millimeter safety margin away from the limbus. So maximum flap diameter is white to white minus 2 millimeter. This is the maximum flap. So if, for example, the white to white is 11, then the maximum should be 9 flap diameter, okay? And if it is 12.5, so the maximum can be 10.5. As well, we have to calculate the minimum flap diameter in order to avoid out of the bed ablation. So it will be at least 1 millimeter away from the laser profile. So the minimum flap diameter is the ablation zone plus 2 millimeter. So this is the minimum flap diameter. For the smile, of course, we have to make some calculations as well, because if we are going to center it with the visual axis, we may go into the limbus. There will be an intersection with the limbus if we want to center it with the visual axis, and we did not consider the white to white, and we did not consider the largest cut of the smile to be less. So you have to decide if you need laser profile decentration for the patient. You have to adjust flap center accordingly, and you have to calculate the maximum and minimum flap diameter, and of course we have to respect the limbus. Thank you very much.